Today I want to talk about something very important and personal for me. Star Wars Battlefront. Star Wars was my childhood. The VHS tapes replaced Saturday morning cartoons for me. The books and universe dominated my imagination, and the games kept me enthralled. Particularly Battlefront. The original game was released in 2004, with the sequel releasing just a year after in 2005. A third installment was 99% completed by developers before being shut down by the now-deceased LucasArts. However, in 2013, we got the first tease that the franchise was to receive a new game. Needless to say, fans of the original games, the movies, and unrelated shooters were excited for this. A modern, badass Star Wars game channeling the excellence of the original. What we got not only didn't deliver on the originals, but lacked any real depth or meaningful content. Before I go on the modern iteration, I want to focus more on the original. Battlefront 2004 featured 16 maps across 10 planets from the Star Wars universe. All of these could be played offline with bots, or online in varying modes, from instant action to a board game-like metagame between battles in galactic conquest. The game covered both major conflicts, the Clone Wars and the Galactic Civil War, with every faction having 5 classes. It featured a simplistic campaign that strung together a series of bot matches that went along with the story of the 5 movies out at the time, interspersing some scenes from them to further convey the narrative. Many maps combined air and ground combat, but lacked any sort of space battles. There were no playable heroes, but NPC heroes could spawn for brief times. Battles were large and chaotic, while maintaining a sort of tactical sense. Multiplayer could support up to 64 players in addition to bots, and players could control their character in first or third person. Battlefront 2 released just a year later and remains one of my favorite games ever made. It is an excellent sequel, taking what the first game did and adding and changing features while standing on the base of the original. It had 33 maps across 16 planets, including in-orbit space conflict. Like before, it featured both major conflicts and their respective factions. It featured the same modes of play as before, but with more instant action modes and an expanded campaign. In the campaign, you follow the 501st, first an elite clone unit, and later stormtroopers following Vader himself. Each map features a very brief expository voiceover by Tamura Morrison, a man with an awesome face and a magical voice, who played Jango Fett in all of the clones. The gameplay itself is a series of bot matches, albeit with twists and extra objectives, defending positions, pushing with limited units, or recovering items. As for units, every faction has 6 classes, all of which have small, unique twists. While ground conflicts were now strictly tied to the ground, the game featured infantry vehicles, while flying vehicles were limited to space battles. Space battles allowed for dogfighting, capital ship destruction, and sneaky internal sabotage, my personal favorite. Multiplayer could host up to 64 players with a max of 750 reinforcements per side. On its own, Battlefront 2 held a great deal of content. However, the game was extremely moddable and still has a community to this day. Mods exist from adding vehicles or new campaigns to whole new eras of conflict, like Knights of the Old Republic or massive map packs. One of my favorite maps is a map called Tatooine at War, which adds a massive map that combines others while channeling some of the gameplay teased in the Dead follow-up. I'll try not to dwell on it too much, but one of the greatest tragedies in gaming was the cancellation of Battlefront 3. Due out sometime in 2008, it was cancelled near completion by publisher LucasArts for widely disputed reasons. The existing knowledge of the game showed maps that combined ground, air, and space combat into one fluid experience. Additionally, it boasted a fully voiced, acted, and fleshed out campaign. Other details are slim, but based on the previous entries and what we knew, it was setting itself up to be one of the best Star Wars experiences ever made. And so the franchise lay dead for a while. There was some doubt of a follow-up upon Disney acquiring Lucasfilms and its respective properties. However, in 2013, DICE and EA hinted at a brand new entry in the Battlefront series. Obviously, there were mixed reactions, but there was some hope of competency and depth with the crew of Battlefield behind it. However, as time progressed, the details grew worse and worse. This graphic went around and quickly dampened many's hopes. The game launched with very little content, 8 maps across 4 planets. In addition to launching as a $60 game, it has a $50 season pass. meaning to get any real amount of content, you need to hand EA the cost of what normally would be a collector's edition. Additionally, while the game featured fun settings, amazing graphics, and solid sound design, except for the hero voice acting, it lacked any real depth. All the blasters felt samey, and the addition of a loadout/card system essentially lost what the original was. Many were unsatisfied with the game, whether it be immediately or after exhausting the limited content of the game. It wasn't the Battlefieldization of Battlefront some might have expected. It felt more like an overly casual cash-in on a license. The worst part in all of this is that the game could have been so good. DICE are more than competent when it comes to FPS games, and the signs of a good game are there, but they're locked behind a paywall or just completely absent. Season passes are nothing new to multiplayer-focused titles, but normally they simply add on to an already complete product. The absence of anything other than the Galactic Civil War, while not a crippling loss, is a bit confusing considering how fleshed out the Clone Wars are now, or how close the game released to Episode 7. And of course, then there's the lack of any real single-player or narrative content. We've seen from the originals that this doesn't have to be anything insane to satisfy. Obviously, there don't have to be any sort of complex writing. The movies and books and extended universe have more than taken care of that. The addition of bots could simplify it all so much, and large numbers of combatants would erase the need for any sort of insane set pieces unique to a campaign. With EA's E3 conference just having concluded at the time of this edit, we only know that Battlefront 2 is happening. Nothing else. Except for like the 2 seconds we saw from Visceral's game is totally a resurrection of 1313. That's totally a young Tamora Morrison as Boba Fett on an Imperial-controlled Tatooine. Anyways, before concluding, I want to talk to you about something that you may have heard of recently. Galaxy in Turmoil. This independent project by Russian developer Frontwire seeks to recreate what Star Wars Battlefront 3 sought to be. While licensing issues may arise, as of right now the game is due to be out for free on Steam as approved by Valve. While the images and footage shown clearly indicate the project is far from complete, the framework of a classically inspired Battlefront game is there. Maybe EA will kill it with Battlefront EA 2, but otherwise, Frontwire, to quote Smee Skywalker, "You have brought hope to those who have none." Who fucking wrote the prequels? Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this, I'm sure you know how the system works. Subscribing would be awesome as well, and as I've said before and will likely say again, I run a small channel, and any and all support is immensely welcome. May the Force be with you, beautiful people.